West Australian paranormal research.
I felt cold in the hands as it. What was that?
Actually, what's freaky from here is the fact that his eyes are glowing.
Yo, case study after case study, paranormal investigations might leave you thinking a bit nutty. Everywhere I go, all I see is fringe science, theories and secret alliances. Masonic brotherhood made this nation, but now we're all slaves to their creation. Trying to make our way in this crazy world where nobody can be trusted, not even your old girl. Maybe we all will die in 2012, or maybe we'll just enter a new global consciousness, a place with no wars and unconditional love. Can you imagine this? I know it might sound strange, you're not used to such change, but if you open your mind, the secret will be revealed. Just keep looking to the skies with your eyes veiled. Yo, this is WAPR. We study the world of the bizarre, and if you want to know the truth, just sit back and wait for the start. Wait for the start. Rest Australia, paranormal researchers. WAPR.
Okay, today we're here with Steve Bassett. If you would like to explain to everybody what you do and about what you do.
I'm the Executive Director of the Paradigm Research Group, which was established in 1996 just outside of Washington, D.C. for one purpose and one purpose only, to politically engage and hopefully eventually resolve the UFO ET issue. Not once and for all, but at least the current status quo.
Get it out there.
And by resolve the issue is meant to change a government policy that the United States formulated and instigated back in the late 1940s, early 1950s, with the assistance of their allies after the war. Right, we were very popular back then, the U.S. To essentially sequester or embargo the acknowledgement of an extraterrestrial presence, which they knew was engaging. And this embargo was maintained throughout the Cold War for some fairly good reasons. I mean, it's hard to argue with their logic, given how frightening the Cold War was and what was at stake. But after the Cold War ended, it was time to move on. But it hasn't happened yet, and so a movement has been developing to finally end that truth embargo and reveal to the world, reveal to the citizens of nations that, in fact, they're not alone in the universe.
How do you feel everything would go if it was to come out tonight?
I know it's a big ask, but how do you think the world would react?
We had a war called Civil War in the U.S. Back in the 1800s, lasted about 5 years. It was a big deal, no question about it. And I think something like 60,000 books now have been written about the American Civil War. It's likely several 100,000 books will be written about the disclosure event and what comes after it. Certainly the year or two following it. Because the disclosure event will be, by quite a good margin, the most profound event in human history. Which is rather good fortune for us that we're able to be here, and watch it. And not with any cheap tech. We've got high definition television and high quality computers and cable TV, and we're going to get to totally participate in the whole darn thing. It's kind of cool. Trying to describe what is going to happen in disclosure is a formidable job, and all I can do is reduce it to some fundamental ideas, fundamental concepts. First and foremost, basically everything changes. Everything in the world changes in a way. Not necessarily in a huge way. Some things will completely change. But most things will change a little bit. So it will be a new world, right? Not a new world order, per se, but a new world. It will be a new paradigm.
Yeah.
Which is why I called the organization Paradigm Research Group. Right? And one of the things will change will be the worldview of human beings. And this is one of the most interesting and important ideas, which it's not readily accessible via, you know, a couple 2-minute interviews on television, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the simple truth is that everybody wakes up in the morning with a worldview. And that is, you may get out of bed in the morning, and you may be a member of the Labour Party, you may be a baseball player, you might be an Anglican, you could be a Western Australian and an Australian, okay? And you could apply any number of other ians and ists to you, right? You're all those things,
Yeah.
right? You're also a human being. You're a member of the human
Part
race.
of the
Okay.
biggest, yeah.
Interestingly enough, that is pretty much the last thing that people think of. You know, by the time they work through all those ians and ists, it's like, you know, they're pretty much pooped out. And it's like, you know, well, yeah, I'm a human being, but so what? What does it matter?
Oh, I guess in the case of disclosure, that would become number one straight away.
Well, you know, suddenly you learn that, oh, you're not even the only species in the galaxy. There may be some genetic connections between us and some ETs, no problem. Just like there's genetic connections between Americans and Irish and British and French and Africans. Okay, nothing shocking about that. But we also know there's people on this planet have no genetic connection at all to anybody else on this planet. Well, that's probably the case. So suddenly we learn that we're not the only species in the galaxy, which makes us okay. That's pretty cool. All right, so they got their species, we got our species. What about our species? Okay, how's it doing? Right? And I think people will shift a little toward that question. How's it doing? It's not doing very well, all right? Because within that species are thousands of years of blood feuds, revenge, threads, nationalist conflicts, racial conflicts, religious conflicts, yada, yada, yada.
I suppose realistically, we're very primitive when you look at it from that angle, don't we?
Well, I mean, we're primitive in one way, but in terms of our weaponry, oh, we're quite sophisticated. You know, we got lasers, we got nuclear bombs, we got bio plagues, we got all kinds of stuff. Pretty cool. Unfortunately, all that leads to death and destruction. And so, this idea that, you know, I realize that you're a communist and an atheist, and I'm, you know, a Baptist capitalist, but, you know, we are both human beings. So why don't we just stow the nukes, right? And go have a lunch and talk about whatever, right? This sounds silly. It's not. A modest shift in specialization of the human race could drop us below the threshold of essentially being fundamentally warlike, and war could disappear in a relatively short amount of time, just like it disappeared in Europe. And, well, with the short-term exception of the Balkan conflicts, which are basically over now, and the Serbs are winning all the tennis matches at Wimbledon. All right, so just you know, it's like a threshold thing. You know, thresholds are very important in life, and people don't always understand them. But here's a good way to understand threshold. You're standing in a swimming pool, and the water comes right up to your nose. Oh, by the way, you're wearing cement boots, and the water comes up right to here. You're good. Somebody puts a hose in the pool and raises the water to here. You're not good. You've crossed a critical threshold. So if we can drop below a certain threshold with respect to how we view each other, we might eliminate war in decades or less. Now that's two big matzo balls, as they say, that change the world very quickly. One of the roles of the disclosure movement is to raise these questions now so that people will immediately start thinking about it as soon as disclosure takes place. Because what's going to happen after the announcement is that people are going to be in a state of shock a little bit. They're going to be in a state of change. They want change. They're going to want to think about doing things differently. But the old paradigm thinking and ways will immediately start exerting its force along the lines of, okay, it's a new game, it's a new world, but with a little adjustment, we can still make everything seem like the last paradigm.
Instead
You
of
see?
being a full shift.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. And that would be one of the great opportunities ever lost. So that is just a snippet of the kind of changes and the kinds of thinking that apply to the post-paradigm world. We could go on for days on this. I mean, you could take any aspect of politics, religion, psychology, economics, pick anything. I don't care what it is. The stock index in Hong Kong, whatever. And you could, if you spend a little time, come up with a way that disclosure of the ET presence is going to affect that item. That's how big this is.
With regards to the actual announcement, how do you feel they would approach the subject? Would it be just straight out there, or would they start doing it in stages?
Well, they've already
break
started doing it in stages.
So that's the way it's
The acclimatization process has really been underway in one form or another for 63 years. Meaning that one component of the truth embargo, and this may sound a little odd, but even though they were committed to ensuring that the formal acknowledgement and consensus acceptance of the UFO reality was not going to happen, they also felt that they needed to still have some acclimatization process, so if something dramatic happened, the human race wouldn't get cold cocked, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you see, the governments of the world, particularly the US, had a significant problem in that while they could manage a truth embargo and they can manipulate the press and undermine a research organization and whatever, these guys up there can do anything they want. And so you may think you got everything under control, and they park a mothership over Washington, D.C. What do you got then? And so it would be best if at least there was some acclimatization process. Otherwise, people were going to get rather out of shape should something dramatic happen. And so they were doing that too. And so you saw over the 60 years from 47 forward, you saw the emergence of alien science fiction, books, movies, television. You saw overall plenty of research taking place, plenty of groups. They didn't have any money, but they were doing it.
So do you feel like movies the likes of District 9, that sort of thing, are another way they're trying to twist the angle people look at it and make them a little bit more receptive?
Probably not. If you pick at a particular movie, probably not.
That sort of general...
But there's two kinds of acclimatization going on. One is a structured process with some government influence, and the other is the natural processes that any sentient species would go through once you throw that fish in the barrel. All right? And so, I mean, the government doesn't have to go out and tell a lot of movie guys, you know, you got to make a movie about aliens. They knew that a long time ago. They make big bucks. All right? As you, I'm sure you know, the highest grossing movie of all time, by a vast margin, is not surprisingly about extraterrestrials. Avatar. And it didn't exactly have the greatest screenplay of all time, but it was about extraterrestrials. So it was a lot going in. And there's going to be a sequel. And it's going to do, well, Avatar's going to do $3 billion, and the sequel might do $2 billion.
Yeah.
So what does that say? I mean, the previous highest grossing movie, also by the same guy, Cameron, I'll tell you, I don't know what he's got, but he's got it, right?
Yeah.
Was about a sinking ship. I love that dichotomy, you see, because really, if you look at the human race from about 1945 on, I think you can go 1900 on. It's basically a sinking ship, which is why I think everybody went to see Titanic, because deep down inside they're going, you know, I can relate to that. Now we've got a movie about extraterrestrials that makes 50% more money than that one, all right? And this movie is about extraterrestrials living in nature, living in a balanced kind of reality and happy, who are having to deal with old paradigm humans that are trying to bring the old paradigm to their world instead of embracing the... So in other words, if disclosure were to go bad, then maybe 50 or 100 years after disclosure, you've actually still got people flying around in Vietnam like helicopters, blowing up trees. You see, that would be bad. Right? So one of the goals of the disclosure movement is to ensure that whatever happens, 70 years after we're finally acknowledging the ET presence, we're not flying around in helicopters blowing up trees. That's the key, one of the key messages of that movie. So Mr. Cameron did not have to have any emails from the government saying, make a movie about ETs. So it's way too complicated to assess it. However, be assured that the government had some influence in the early days of this process. They had encouraged it. You know, they cooperated with movies from time to time. And the books, the movies, the TV, the documentaries, let me tell you, we're ready for this. We are totally ready. So we've been acclimated, all right? But there's a little more to it than just acclimatization, but still, we're more than ready. All the kids are ready, right? They recently did a poll by Reuters using a global polling operation, very substantial. I think it's called Ipsos or Ipsos, I'm not sure whatever, but it's a big operation. And they actually tried to do something never been done before. They tried to poll the planet. Okay. There have been plenty of polls of first world nations, like UK,
Yeah.
United States, and asking a basic question, are they UFOs, ETs? And by the 90s, they were starting to get 50% results. Okay, 50% think, yeah, pretty profound number.
It's
Okay, but what about the rest of the world? So they went out and they did this poll, and they did like 20-some countries, Africa, Asia, India, including, and like that. So they felt they had a representative sample for the world. But they asked a tougher question. I wish they had asked two questions. I wish they had asked, do you think some of those UFOs are ETs? And then, do you think ETs are actually living amongst us? But they didn't ask the former, they just asked the latter. Do you think ETs are living amongst us? The percentage of the world's population that thinks that is 20%. 1.3 billion people. And I believe that the percentage for the lesser question, or the less severe question, would have been about 50%. That's 3 billion people.
maybe even more.
So are we? And you could be. And I'll tell you, of the other 3 million people, probably half of them are leaning that way. I don't know for sure, but show me a little more evidence and I'm with you. So we are so ready. Who is not ready is the old paradigm members of the military intelligence complexes of the great nations of the world, including our good friend and ally, Australia. They were born, there's some baby boomers still there, without question. There's quite a few. Some Gen Xers, almost no millennials. And they are of that time. And while it is their job to take care of such matters, for them, this is a tough one. Right? So if you're born in 1949, and 60 years later, you're in a meeting, and the question at the table is it time to get to the president and say it's time to announce the ET presence? It's tough. Now, you put a bunch of 19-year-olds at the table and go, oh yeah, let's rock.
Yeah.
Get Obama in here, let's do it, all right? Let's get it out. Let's get some, I want to go to the stars, where are the starships? I want to talk to the ETs. But that's not who's at the table. So again, this is just a little sense of the dynamic underway.
Yeah. In the unlikely situation where a non-US government is going to be the first one to disclose...
Not unlikely, it's possible, very possible.
How do you think the United States government would handle that?
Yeah, it's like saying we just discovered you had been embezzling from the firm for the last 40 years, and it would have been nice if you told us. How would you handle that? Sheepishness comes to mind. I am in Australia. That could be the reason. But the point is that this is a very significant watershed moment for the United States. Everybody thinks that their thing is a watershed moment, by the way. But here's the deal. The United States started this embargo. It got its allies to go along with it. It then maintained it and is clearly the leader in the world with respect to studying ET technology from those crash vehicles, the one with the dead aliens in them. Yeah. All right? And it went to great lengths to maintain this embargo. It should have ended in 1994, and probably would have if H.W. Bush had won the election, but he didn't. Another guy won. And while H.W. Bush was their guy, so much so that they named the headquarters of the CIA after him, right? Mr. Clinton was not their guy. And so they backed off. And the next thing you know, another 16 years have gone by, they still haven't done it. And so what's happened is the world is losing its patience. And your audience needs to understand that there are elements within every single major world government that know about the ET presence. Count on it. And includes Australia. That doesn't mean that all the MPs are running around knowing about ETs. No, it means that there are elements of the Australian government that are not only aware of the ET presence, they're engaging the ET presence issue in full cooperation with the United States. Right? That's non-trivial. Same for England, same for the UK, for Canada, it's the same for France, very likely Germany. Not the same for Russia and China. Still, they all know at some level.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So, the U.S. is at a crossroads. If it doesn't lead the disclosure process itself in the event, then it will have to absorb all of the criticism that the world wishes to direct at it for how it handled the truth embargo. And there'll be plenty of disagreements about this, right? And particularly when they start adding up the cost, because the truth embargo has had a cost. It's like when you embargo Iraq or you embargo Cuba. There were reasons to do it, but there were costs. A whole lot of Cubans died because of that embargo. A whole lot of Iraqis died. And of course there are people that they're not happy about that. But it's just some Cubans and Iraqis. Not so with this embargo. Everybody was involved. And there are significant costs that we paid in blood and people's lives and in treasure in order to keep that embargo going. And people are going to add that up and go, wait a minute. So they're going to get all of that, but no upside. The upside will go to the nation that does disclose. They will be the great truth tellers. They will be the leader into the next paradigm, into the 20th century. And you know who could very well be that leader into the 20th century? The great truth teller of our time?
France?
Communist China.
China?
Yes.
I thought France might have
There's a
been
bit
up
of
there as well.
irony. No, France is on the list. France is on the list. Now, there are some Americans that would be even more appalled if France did it. They'd prefer China over France. But that's short-sightedness on their part. So, Communist China ends up leading the world into the 21st century and being the great truth teller. Well, look, there's an irony here, but the fact is, if they end it, they deserve the prize, don't they? So now, where is the U.S.? Well, here's the U.S. If the Communist China, the Chinese Communist Party, and the People's Republic of China, which fully endorses UFO research, right? No problem with it. The government has government entities doing it, right? You want to be a UFO researcher? Go to China, you'll be fine. You want to practice Falun Gong? Don't go to China. So, if that party announces the ET presence tomorrow, all right, here's where the U.S. is. We're in a major recession. It could go depression. We have $73 trillion in derivative exposure, $53 trillion in unaccounted downstream liabilities, a multi-trillion-dollar debt, a massive deficit. A great deal of our money is in the hands of foreign countries, including the People's Republic of China. Our dollar, while strengthened lately, but it's somewhat relative, it could collapse. Other nations are calling for a non-dollar based reserve currency. Our Gulf of Mexico is filling up with oil. 10% of our homes are upside down with huge numbers in foreclosure. We've lost our manufacturing base. They're starting to take down whole parts of Detroit because nobody's there anymore. California, our major state, is $50 billion in debt. And many cities in the country and some states are considering filing bankruptcy. And oh, by the way, China just announces an extraterrestrial presence. I guess you guys are going to have to fess up now. That's not a good thing. And so there's a lot at stake for the United States.
I think we're just about out of time, so I've got one more question that I really want to put to you.
Okay.
If it was all to come to a head tonight,
Yes.
and disclosure was to fully come out,
Right.
what would Steve Bassett do tomorrow?
Oh, Steve, well, first of all, he'll party. He'll party. He'll party. He'll write 10,000 I told you so cards. I joke. Right. No. I have 1,000 things I could do in the post-disclosure world. The biggest problem is picking what. But in general, the disclosure process, the disclosure event, is only the beginning of really the new world. It's in fact, it'll be over in a couple of minutes, and it's kind of it'll be a bit depressing because it will be over in a couple of minutes, and that's that. So you go for years and years and years trying to get something. It's done. It's done. Okay. However, the post-disclosure world will go on forever, and the work that needs to be done and the opportunities are just incredible. And so I'll try to be part of it and try to take what cachet I have and acquire some power and some money, right? So that I can be an influence, just like the Bilderbergers and the Rothschilds and the Illuminati, right? Only, you know, I'll be working with other people and we'll be doing our thing. And will try to be positive influence. See, there's nothing wrong with coming together. There's nothing wrong with influence. There's nothing wrong with trying to shape the world. The issue is for what purpose and how, right? So this idea, we need to do away with all controlling entities and all entities that try to influence. And then what do you got? Basically, you got chaos is what you got. The problem in the world is not that there are people trying to shape it. The problem is they're making the wrong decisions. In other words, they're like a sculptor that's trying to sculpt, the David, and it looks like crap. I mean, it's like that. Yeah. It looks like the cross between a hippopotamus and a mud ball. Whatever. The point is, it's not that these things are going on. It is the fact that they are not seeking the right outcomes. Now, right is relative, right? But I think people know generally the difference between the good and the bad and the right and the wrong. Okay, genocide, massive wars, destroying the Pacific Ocean, not good. Okay, sustained growth, bringing the rich and poor together, right? Eliminating war, that is good. Okay, this is not complicated. But believe me, there's plenty of power people that are perfectly fine with destroying the Pacific Ocean if they can buy 2 more mansions on the Riviera. Okay, well we want to overcome those things, all right? This is not complicated in that sense. How it'll come out, I have no idea. I envy all the kids that come to me because I know they're going to see most of this go on. They're going to go to the stars. Yeah. I'm not, but with any luck, I'll get a good 10 years in the post-disclosure world, maybe 15. And I'm going to enjoy every day. So.
Just in closing, do you want to tell everybody about your websites
so
they can look up?
If any of this made sense to you, you can go to my portal at www.paradigmresearchgroup.org. That's the main portal to the work of Paradigm Research Group. There are thousands of links there that will take you off to all kinds of stuff. But on the main portal page, you can link over to the factsonwashington.org, which is ongoing. You can link over to the X conference, which we've had 6, going to have 7 hopefully in 2011. You could link over to a conference in development called Contact 2010. And you can link, and this is really important, to the Exopolitics World Network, which was founded by P.R.G. in 2008. And Australia has a site. It has a portal site to the Exopolitics World Network called Exopolitics Australia, run by Grant Robb out of Canberra. We have 22 countries. We're hoping to get up to 30 or 40. We're looking for people that want to run the portal site for their country if we don't already have one. So that's a taste, and you'll get to see other projects, and you can link to other things that are going on. P.R.G. is part of a growing international movement. There are many, many organizations now. The one thing we all have in common is we don't have enough funding. The truth embargo was designed specifically to prevent funding of this kind of activism. So one of the key things that needs to happen is we need some individuals who are highly successful in their life and quite comfortable financially, but who want to change the world. They want to be part of history, and they have the means to do it. To throw off any concerns they have about, quote, the truth embargo, which is sort of ending anyway, and step up and provide the money that will allow us to take this activism to 2 or 3 levels higher, and more importantly, to get positioned so that when the disclosure does take place, we're going to be able to get out of the starting gate pretty quickly. Because believe me, once disclosure takes place, it's going to look like the Oklahoma land rush. And so we need our support now. And so we invite people to come and look at these sites, and if they want to step in and help, we would love to hear from you.
Steve Bassett, thank you very much. Right.